Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon listeners. It's me Suleiman Ben Swari coming back on Facebook Live and to discuss the concerns being raised by the CDS, that's the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia National Army, or the Gambia Armed Forces, sorry, and from other quarters. We have had a statement made by Honorable Halifa Saleh, and we have heard about other concerns. This is what we want to discuss, but if you just give me a minute, let me share this video and we can start the program. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, the issue is about security. The issue is about security, and we are going to discuss this due to concerns raised by the CDS of the Gambia Armed Forces, due to concerns raised by Honorable Halifa Saleh, and due to other concerns raised from different quarters. And before going further, I want to explain that it's unfortunate we are here. We should not have been here, because we raised these issues from when we came out of the impasse. I can say during the impasse, I have raised these issues, making recommendation that these are things that we need to prepare ourselves. We need to have a proper security sector, proper security review. We need to approach it with a comprehensive decision. We need to get the right people there, and when we need to assess the threats, and after a few years, I keep on coming back to the same thing, and I remember from then on, I use the word ticking time bombs. We have ticking time bombs, and I keep on identifying what I reference as the ticking time bombs in the country that needed to be taken care of. And I made a personal assessment actually of our security, this thing, which I put in priorities, and I selected seven risk factors that needed to be dealt with in order to avert destabilization. On top of that was governance. That was how we govern out of this transition. How do we have a successful transition? That was it. The second was the dealing with the dictator and its enabling factors. What enabled the dictatorship between be it domestic or external, and the dictator himself. We needed to address that issue. Then that was number two. Number three, not in any particular order. Number three was to deal with deliver services. The things that needed to be to deal with the public expectations, things that needed to be given from the state. That was it. And the fourth one was about Islamization, or the threat of Islamic terrorism, and that's not only looking at the domestic, but that was actually looking at the geopolitics of it, the sub-Saharan geopolitics of it. And the other one was about the social empowerment and environment. And I think the seventh one was based on sixth one was on corruption and governance. That was part of governance as well. Corruption, trafficking, and other things. And the seventh one was Gambia-Senegal relationship. and for further possible integration, to plan for further how we develop our relationship. That was the seventh. As I said, in no particular order, there's none of those which are more important than all. But absolutely, the emphasis was about governance. And we failed to do that because we know why we failed. We just went into our individual interests, and this is the history of the Gambia since from independence. That's why we keep on failing. That's why we keep on failing. We never look at the common good. We never look at creating the greater good. And we are all, either partisans or looking at interests. This narrow things in the way it is. I refuse to fall for that for two different reasons. I was brought up better. I'm fortunate to have the education I have to frame me the way I am. And the profession I have to inform me about the importance of national security. The importance of national security. Now, let's look at what have been raised. What are the threats identified? One, the security sector. The CDS spoke, and I'll go into detail a bit, and spoke about problems in the security sector. That means the armed forces for that matter. Why did we fail? Security sector reforms were meant to be delivered. The millions and millions have been pumped. And we had the Minister of Defense, we had the government telling us, yeah, we are doing this, we had a policy, we have that. Where did it go? Finally, the CDS have come out to admit that it completely failed. But not only that, they have not progressed in certain areas. Actually, what the CDS said was, the army was divided along tribes. People that followed have remembered when I was talking about, and this was before the 3 years judgment, when I was talking about things within, I said we have to be very careful. We don't want the armed forces to be involved in our matters because of the armed forces is a ticking time bomb. I talked about the 2 columns, and there might be a 3rd column coming out. I explained the scenario of Guinea-Bissau, and all that was warning. We tried everything, and it's not only what we said. What was said here on media. No, we reach out. We reach out in many ways. We use different strategies to reach out to people to understand. In some instances, even refusing to put our name on it, my name on it, because some people might feel uncomfortable. But give the ideas, give the recommendations, and those things to people that they will be comfortable with the discourse. And I'll tell you, these issues were raised to the president himself. I have four different people, and I'll explain how that came about. Someone said to me, which I know of, a particular person that went to the president and explained these things. All the threats that needed to be dealt with, whatever the case, we have to take security very important. We should not politicize this. We should be very careful. 4 different people have spoken to the president. I know of. I know of people that have spoken to different individuals within. When Batambedu was looking after the security sector reform, people I know who have approached Batambedu and advised him, take it this seriously. And we can go on. They never did. The second threat, this is the one thing, the second threat which have been raised is the pluralism in society. What we call the tribalism, the politics of different political parties riding to fight. This is another issue we raised. What we haven't raised is the social hardship. What we haven't raised is the social hardship. We decided, one came out, the security sector, because people have been feeling insecure, their house been boggled and everything else. We had alarming bells rang. But what I am referring to here is not that security, but the admission from the CDS that they have completely failed. They have completely failed. The second one, which is popular and race, is about the country is divided, the people are divided along tribal lines or along party lines. There's nobody's looking at the national interest. That's evident out there. But the issues, even we have many fault lines on this. We have the issue in Sanyang, we have the issue in other areas. But we have not seen this as a threat, or we have not identified this as something that is a sign of where the country is sitting on. The fourth one that we tend to ignore for different reasons. People ignore. I don't ignore that. It's governance. It's governance. It's governance. We ignore the governance issues. Say we not about the failure of governance. And actually, everything is underpinned here is the failure of governance. Security is about governance. People think that security is about the army acting or the police, or no, that's the last aspect of it. It's about the executive and how policies and every other thing is put into aspects. Those are based on contingency planning. Those are the army, the police are deterrent, and they will react to if some of the safeguards fail, and they will react to that, to nip it in the bud or to confront it. We should not base our security on that. Then we should base our security on avoiding if you have a need for these people. And if we manage well, we'll save resources of creating a big army, big police and others, because if we understand the problems, those problems would have avoided. We put the resources into those problems and avoided waiting for problems to happen. And that's why I said it's about governance. It's about failure of creating jobs for youths, failure of creating sanitized environment for youths to be, failure of doing a lot of other things, failure of curbing corruption, failure of other things, and the failure of putting incompetent people in place. These are the failures. It's about governance. Let's look at the issue about the threat here. We always have two areas we look at when we talk about threat. Is it domestic or is it external? What we talk about here is about domestic threat. There is an aspect of an external threat, but I don't think this government even think about that. I am not going to talk about the external. Let's just concentrate on the internal here. But it's external, just to make for other people to understand what I'm referring to. What is happening in the sub-region? What is happening in Burkina Faso? What is happening in Nigeria? What is happening in Mali? What is happening in other countries? And how does that relate to us? These are the things. And the digress of democracy in Senegal. These are issues that you analyze and to understand how does it sit with our security. The digress of democracy in Senegal is should be of concern to Gambia. You see, these are the things that we need to do. But absolutely it's not happening. That's why we're here. The executive have failed in governance because until they have the wrong people in position who cannot advise the executive or put it in a manner to make things better, because of all they after is their position, appointments. It's about appointment. I am the CDS, I am this, what do I get from that? From the big car, the big house. It's just like other how civilians are. But the problem with this is the nature of their job is so sensitive. If the president doesn't know, the cabinet doesn't know, But you're given a mandate. How do you make sure you do your job in a sense and make them know and find a strategy that will make your, make sure that your task is delivered. Your task is delivered. How do you do that? If that fails, you should resign and expose what is happening. Say, look, this is not working. At least citizens will be concerned. Citizens will be concerned. But no, they will sit there just to take the salaries, to be retired, to be put an ambassador. These are the problems we have. And now, let's go back to the domestic, where the threats here. And let's look at one issue that have just shown that we haven't learned, or we didn't, we don't know where we're going with this. And this is about an MOU. The MOU Gambia government have signed with Nigeria. Let's put a bit of perspective here. If you do something wrong, you learn from that. But wise people even don't make those mistakes. They learn from other people's mistakes. There's nothing that you will get onto that have not been done before. There is nothing that as a country or even a company, yes, you might innovate certain things, but you can always learn from others. Someone have tried something similar. There's no point of trying to reinvent the wheel, especially when it comes to these issues. But no, we even made the mistakes. When the PPP government, based on the failure of governance, decided to react to the problems rather than assess the problems properly and find solutions, no, they ran and did things to protect, because they protect themselves. That led them to sign an MOU, an MOU that Gambia did not even know of, and run to Nigeria to get Nigeria to come and insulate them. That's what they intended. This MOU, a white paper, was never raised in cabinet. It was never discussed in cabinet. And I get this evidence from where? At the TRRC, the permanent secretary then of defense was asked, and he explained how they came about with the MOU. It was not at cabinet level. It was between Sehu Sabali. Literally, it was Sehu Sabali's idea and running with it. And Jawara was bamboozled into agreeing onto it. Because of now, they were so divided from the Mansa Konko issue 1992. Now Jawara is seeing enemies within. Bibi Davos and others were seen as people that perceived to be those people that doesn't want him, those people that asked him to retire or supported him for his retirement and others. It was a divided country from the executive level. They started to take decisions like that. The other evidence is O.J. Jallow said this. He was asked about this. He said no. He cannot remember bringing the Nigerians, to bring Nigerians to the country been discussed. And O.J. Jallow said something, that he said several senior officers in the army and in the Zonamori did visit him and advise him because of some of the things that was happening or the way the government was trying to govern the security sector. But they decided to use an MOU. They never went to Parliament. So, to seek Parliament approval, to be debated or anything. No, they just did it with Nigeria. The Nigeria was a dictatorship, one of the worst brutal dictators. Nigerian armed forces did not have the culture of democracy. All these things would have been captured in an assessment. That's why a country has at national security. You have your intelligence services that get the information and make it into an intelligence and pass it on to the national security advisors. And before the executive take decisions, those decisions will be based on the advice from national security. But another defect was, who was our national security advisor? Was a Nigerian. How do you expect a foreigner who have not lived in the country for a long time, who does not understand the political dynamics? Some of these dynamics you cannot just read. You have to live with it. Because they are decades old. They are not recent history. Someone that does not understand the social relationships and the dynamic relationships between interest groups, within political front and the government itself. And that person becomes a security advisor. And these are the defects, you see. That's how we have a defected way Jawara was misled in taking decisions. Nigeria doesn't have a culture of democracy. The armed forces of Nigeria is not used to be a subordinate to a civilian authority. They will undermine. Now you expect these people to come and mentor? When you're already, you detected that there's a threat? You see, again, we tend to underestimate or misunderstand the strategic relationship we need with Senegal. There's no strategic partner that we can have better than Senegal. But that does not mean we hold our these things. And we should not rest our security on security guarantees based on a bilateral relationship with Senegal. No. There are ideas that we cannot share on social media, but that's what a national security advisor does. Use this intelligence to create safeguards that are soundproofed, not based on only a bilateral relationship. Because that person is your immediate neighbor. They have interest. They have interest. They have interest. You have to understand how to deal with this interest. Every country is a sovereign nation, and we all have our national interests to safeguard. How do you safeguard your interests? But our relationship with Senegal should be. And that was a failure as well. Why am I bringing this perspective is you will see the problems resurfacing again. We have not learned from our history. You see, when Jawara fell out with Abdou Diouf, or in that sense, we remember, it was not Gambia, the Gambian people that fell out with Senegalese. No, we are one people. It was our governments. But the governments, it was because of the two personalities, but it's not about personality as well. It was national interest. Senegal wanted so much, and Jawara realized that how much Senegal wanted is not to the interest of Gambia. No, we have to take it, easy. We have to develop this. We have to do this. They disagreed, and Senegal pulled off. And it became a personal feud between these two people. Again, a failure. A national security advisor would have understand the importance of this relationship and devise. You see, an intelligence here is not about to inform only about threats and so on. It's about giving suggestions, recommendations, and taking task and go out there and deliver. And say, look, how can we fix this relationship? For be the short term, medium to the long term. We might not have everything that we want in the short term, but we can have a resemblance to start to build confidence in this. Because of it's important for many reasons, but especially on security. We have to get these things so that anybody who wants to plot would have to think about how would Senegal react to this. Nobody would plot without thinking of the geopolitics. And in the sense of Gambia, the main principle when you think of the geopolitics is the standing of Senegal. You have to always have that. That's why it was important, it was a failure. But now, we are repeating this failure, and I'm going to go into the MOU to show you how defective this MOU is. First, as I said in the before, when it happened, the due process was not followed. Due diligence was not applied. Assessments were not done to inform us whether it was right to be done or not, or if we are to do it, how to do it best. I talked about the lack of democracy in Nigeria, dictatorship, lack of institutional discipline. Democratized. Institutions. These are important. Corruption. And if you realize that before 1994 coup, the plotters have realized that the Nigerian army presence was in fact make it better for them. Now the Gambian soldiers are disgruntled because of the presence of the Nigerians. Because of the Nigerians were bullying, trying to bully them. They were starting to fight. Nationalism is distinct, and all they did was, use that as, an advantage. Not the only thing. The Nigerians themselves started to fight because of what the person removed, who was the head of mission, removed, don't want to go. Corruption. Because of he was so comfortable in the Gambia. He was like a head of state, have everything, security, enjoying, he doesn't want to leave. Now they look at that indiscipline. Now the Gambian soldiers seeing that kind of indiscipline. At the day itself, they could not determine who was the legitimate commander for the Nigerians. They had two commanders, pulling and pushing. And if you have seen the memos that have been sent through the vice president, Sehus Abali to Jawara, trying to lobby Jawara. Lobby. Now these senior commanders were lobbying Jawara to lobby for them at the this is just to show, expose how important governance is. People always think about the coup, the day of the coup. No, what led us to the coup? Governance. Now, we are doing the same mistakes. Right now, let's assess again. We are going through this in a what manner? This information did not come from the Gambia government. The MOU information did not come from the Gambia government. Gambia government had signed an MOU 8 months ago with the Minister of Defense in Nigeria. An MOU before. By the Minister of Defense of the Gambia, Sheikh Omar Faye, and these things. Nobody understands what that MOU was. Then, Adama Barrow went and visited Buhari. And Buhari shut him down. And said to him, we had to communicate that we have enough to deal with. And we did support you with everything, and you failed to deliver on what you promised your people. Go back and sort this problem out. That was exactly what that came out. Go and Google, go and Google the communique that came from the Aso Rock, the State House of Nigeria, their State House. Now, we are signing an MOU again. The Gambian ambassador to Nigeria signing a defense MOU with the Minister of Justice, Minister of Defense in Nigeria. Gambia didn't know that. What are the worries? Where did we base this assessment? Again, we are creating a problem. I will go into detail. First, we are not doing things right. We are not considering right. What's the position of Senegal now? How would Senegal feel about this? You see, it's not about yes, we should consider how Senegal feels. We have to do something right. Yes, we have our sovereign rights. But remember, we have a mutual interest. We already have a bilateral relationship. Bilateral agreement, treaties with Senegal on defense and security. The presence, there's a contingent of Senegalese in the Gambia who are not part of ECOMIC. They are part of what? That treaty. That agreement. Now you are signing a different treaty with a country far away. For what? You see, now we are doing the same mistakes Jawara did. Not following the due process, not doing an assessment to see what to go into. We look at that. The other thing is, just ask the Jawara time, if he had assessed that this is a dictatorship, this is a country in disarray, the institutions are not disciplined, they can just get up one day and change the government, change what they think, or change how they do things, or when they come in, they will behave in a manner that the Gambians would be looking into that, and it will pose as a threat. Right now, this morning I woke up, and a hospital was raided in Nigeria. Nurses and babies were kidnapped. It's no more women, girls, students, or now they're going to hospitals kidnapping them. Let's say there's a conflict in the northern part of Nigeria. There's a conflict in the south. Now there's a conflict in the middle belt. The Yorubas, now there's a resistance group coming up for Yoruba independence. The Nigerian army, that's almost 100,000, over 1 million. The armed forces, with everything, they cannot fight their own insurgency. You'll be surprised. There was a moment they have to hire mercenaries from South Africa to fight for them, to push Boko Haram out. That's how they managed to get Boko Haram out of Adama, our Bono State, and all those areas. Because all those areas were taken, and Boko Haram took over those cities. They had to bring in mercenaries to be in the front line, to lead them. That's because of what? Governance failure. If they tell you the budget of Nigeria on defense, and they cannot fight an insurgency like that, do you think that governance again insecurity? One, because of the money that's reported as a budget does not trickle down to the soldiers. It's not their equipment, it's not their needs, it's not their motivation or anything. And you think those people will fight to be killed? You see, why do we think that we need to go and seek support from these people? That's one thing. What about the presence of economic? We already have economic in the country. Let's come and ask ourselves, what do we look for? So we already have economic. What's the presence of economic in the country there? We already have Senegalese contingent in the country. The people based in Guam are not even part of economic. They are part of Ghana and came out from an agreement with Senegal. Probably most people don't even know that. They thought that every Senegalese in the Gambia is on the economic. No, they are on a separate command. What about our armed forces? Why did we fail? We'll get to that. Now, we are going into all this. These are all problems we're facing. Now, what are we looking for from Nigeria? Let's go through the communique. The government of President Adama Barrow has Friday signed a fresh deal with Nigeria on military cooperation to tackle insurgency in the Gambia. Yes, then that means that the first MOU is scrapped. Now this is a fresh one. The memorandum of understanding signed on Friday shaped the legal framework between the Gambia government, the government of Nigeria and the Gambia to tackle insurgency, enhance networking in intelligence sharing, capacity building, and place a robust counter-transgenerational strategy to decisively clear the infantry. According to according to section written in the MOU, coded by the Special Assistant to Nigerian Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abu Kadari. You see, this MOU is even default. You see, when they start delegating other people to act on their behalf. You see, there's someone fooling Adama Barrow again. This is not right. It does not make sense. It's not for Gambia, it doesn't make sense. Now, insurgency. Do we have an insurgency? Do we have a likely insurgency? Do we know what insurgency means? Or do we know how to fight insurgencies? If you know, you understand insurgency is fought based on governance. Do you know why Nigeria failed? Because of governance. They failed. They failed because of governance. Now, what are we talking about insurgency? Are we going to support them to fight their insurgency? Or are we foreseeing insurgency in the Gambia? Are we expecting Nigeria to come and help us fight? One. To tackle insurgency, enhance network in intelligence sharing. Intelligence sharing with Nigeria. I think intelligence sharing in policing, probably with Nigeria. But if it comes to defense, intelligence sharing, we should get our intelligence from a network, from the ECOWAS committees. That's where you have the sound intelligence. Because it's not only Nigeria that will give you a sub-regional perspective of what is happening. If Nigeria would be specific, and it would have to detail on how does it affect us. In order to detail how it affects us, you have to take it to sub-regional context, because it just doesn't get from Nigeria to the Gambia. What gets from Nigeria to the Gambia is someone flying from Nigeria, coming to the Gambia, using internet to do fraud or other things, or vice versa, or something like that. Let's not get in there. That's the case. One, intelligence sharing and networks, that's where you don't need an MOU for that. We already have a network to depend on. Two, network in intelligence sharing, capacity building and empowering robust counter transnational strategy it's just rubbish. Capacity building, these people are, yes, we already had that actually. Why do you think we train our immigration and train other people in Nigeria? We already have that. This MOU is nothing to that. They're lying. The purpose of this MOU, they're not telling you. They're trying to use a back way. Just as the mistake Jawara did. Instead of going to cabinet, discuss issues, look at okay, why do we need this? I mean, where the information comes from, in the intelligence, and with what advice, or do we have another option? What are the best options? We look at all this before we come to conclusion. No, because of the Jawara government was divided, Sheikh Sabali was running things, you know, and making other people to be seen as enemies. Bibi Dabo, enemy, he doesn't want you to stay, I am the one that wants you to stay. But individual interests. That's why when I talk about interest, it's not about tribe, it's not about party. It's about people. If in political parties inside you think they are hegemons like this, no. Wait till an opposition win elections and go into government. You hear them. Now we all have a common enemy until we are in charge. We should learn that. It's all this is not true. There's no need for this. He continued. In the statement on Friday, Mohamed Abdullah revealed that Nigerian Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magasi, and the Gambia High Commission to Nigeria, Mohamed Musa Njai, were the signatory to the Memorandum of Understanding for both countries. The same person signed an MOU, and they made Adama Barrow to believe. Now they've opened up. They have opened up to meet, so that Adama Barrow can meet his counterpart, the president, to discuss this further. When Adama Barrow went there, he was talking down to and sent back packing. Now they went back again to say that, okay, we have solved the problems. Yes, because some of why was Buhari so mad? Because when they went there, Omar Faye, he thinks he's smart. It's about being smart, nongo, if he nongola. He went and proposed that let them decorate Dada. Not knowing that Dada and General Dada, who was in the Gambia, decorate him for service to Gambia and whatever. What does have to do anymore? He felt everything. But not knowing that Dada, Nyesarebe and others, those are the force commanders that overthrew that overthrew Buhari when he was a military head of state. He was not. He was angry. Now they think that okay, that have died down. Let's go back again. Let's sign another MOU. They're trying to sign another MOU. For this MOU to be taken, and people that have listened to my program 3 weeks ago, I said that the reason they're going to stop again, what's his name? The External Affairs Minister was looking for this strategy. Because there are undercurrents in Senegal. There are development in Senegal. What they expect or what they want, they cannot happen from Senegal. Now they're trying to get somewhere else. That's why Gambians, we should wise up and stop this partisan thing and look at our national interest and look at the governance. We are failing. Failing. Now, that's what they want. They want to develop this MOU. This MOU would not mean anything without having a buy-in with the Nigerian government, the president himself. It's easy to get to these ministers and get them sign things and nonsense. This is not any, I can bet my dollar that just as the old MOU 8 months ago, it's nothing from top down. It's trying to take it from the minister up. And Buhari will not fall for this. Buhari have said it, they have enough on their plate. And they have spent enough on Gambia to try to solve. He said he's settled in many times to solve this problem. Now Gambia you should have delivered. Go and listen to your people. That's exactly what he said to President Barrow. They continue. And look at this now. President Adam Barrow has recently ordered the National Guards. I think that's not relevant. Someone, the news anchor put this thing here. The question is, will the Abuja MOU be called into force by Gambia government to handle the perceived threat through the support of Nigerian military assistance in quelling insurgency? The only answer for now from Abuja is that the two countries have pledged to operationalize the terms and conditions of the MOU they have signed. That's not true. There's no responsible government that would rely on an MOU. MOU is just a mechanism to start to build confidence. It's a confidence building measure. You need more than that. Any responsible government that does that, no responsible government will do that. That's why when Jawara did that, that was the outcome we have. That's the outcome we have. Countries have way to do things. Countries have way to do things. We need parliament to ratify issues. That's how to approve, to have legitimacy. Parliament represent the people. On that note, that's what I'm saying, that the MOU is for one thing, as the guy said, for imminent insurgency. What insurgency? Why we expect an insurgency? Is that an admission to failure? Now Barrow have admitted in failing everything. Not a constitution, not this, not betterment of Gambian lives, or nothing. People are worse off today. Now, the insecurity is even worse. Now, it's not about Yaya systematically killing Gambians. Now, you are telling us you don't have any control. You are likely to get to one day waking up and Gambia is in uproar. May God forbid. I would not go into scenarios, because I don't want to inform the mind on that. I want to inform the mind on avoiding it. I want to inform, I will point to it, but I will not get into scenarios properly. Just to so that we can understand what we're facing. Now you want to admit that this is how bad it is. Now you need an MOU from Nigeria. But what if, let's Gambian ask ourselves, ECOMIC is still in the country until December. What do we need Nigerians for? You want to bring them as mercenaries to do things that ECOMIC will not allow to be allowed to do, their mandate cannot do? What about the presence of Senegal? We have a Senegalese contingent not under ECOMIC. What about that contingent? What are you going to do with them? Are you going to withdraw them? Or are you going to complicate things more? Because remember, Jawara did the same mistake. The minute he brought in the Nigerians without terminating the contract or agreement with United Kingdom see it as terminating their agreement, breach of contract, because you cannot bring a subordinate force on top of us. You naturally, you see, these are the things that faltered. They withdrew. Now, if you do this to Senegal, what do you think Senegal would do? You think they will keep their forces and have Nigerians to come and have a superiority on them? No. Senegalese are proud people and they are professional. Now, what our Gambia is now been put into, why would we have put all these forces into our country? Why did you fail? In 3 years, we could have what we want. Now you said you own a term, but you're still failing. The term is finishing here. Now we bring in more. You're thinking of bringing more soldiers. We think that soldiers are we expecting soldiers to govern us? That's why I said security is about governance. The MOU is in that state. Now, let's move on to the next one, the CDS statement. And Gambia, we have to be very careful. The CDS, as I said before, I don't like to say that I'm vindicated. The guy is just political. The guy is just political. A CDS does not speak to the public. CDS speaks to his forces. And he does not go and address the men. There's a structure. There is a standing operational procedure, operational procedure. Not the standard operational procedure. There's a standing that we use in the forces. It's done like this, it's like that. There's no room to even maneuver about this. Its reminder is put on the first publication in the morning, is pinned out there. Now, I'll come closer so that you can hear me. The CDS should not be running around, getting the press, going to facing companies or battalions. He can go and do his visits and withdraw. If you go to a barracks, do your visit, you withdraw to the officers' mess and address the senior officers. The senior officers will take that and trickle it down, cascade it down up to the master parade, to company parade and everything, and the company commander will come and address. But no, it's about saying all the right things. But what are you doing? He was there as an army commander. He was the army commander. Or deputy, or deputy CDS. He was deputy CDS. 4 years. Where did it go wrong? We said it. We said it. You cannot, during the impasse, before the impasse even hit up, the minute they recommended Masani Kinte, I came out and said, no, it's wrong. Don't start this. If you do this, everything will go wrong. I can't have time to explain what I said before, but I just don't point to problems, I give solutions. And I gave my reasons. But everything was reduced to two things. That I was tribalist. 1. 2, that I am affiliated to people that I am lobbying for to have that job. That's what it was reduced to. That's why I said we always take lenses. If the person those people have listened to the content of my conversation, I gave my reasons. Yes, you might look at my background or whatever to see whether there's a conflict of interest. You can raise that. I'm not having a problem with raising it. But as I said, I don't wish to be vindicated when these things happen. I just raise them up to avoid being vindicated. But I am vindicated. People that took that decision and everything else have seen what happened. And something I said was, the first thing you do in this case, when you have to detoxify. You have to detoxify the institution. And this can only be done competently to a metric system. To be seen to be fair, seen to be effective, fair to everyone. These are the criteria. Because you would already done a primary review, and people who are familiar with our national security would not take them time to do that review. Do you know what? That review has been done many times. We said, I made programs and talking about what should happen when we take Yaya in December. And when I was saying this, people were crazy thinking, why are you saying these things? Yaya is not even gone yet. You're talking about what we should do with security, this thing, and so on. No. Two things I was doing. It was to convince Gambians, to put in the mindset of Gambians that Yaya will go December. But again, it was to start to make Gambians to think of things that we have to deal with after December. And we made programs. Many Gambians joined the program from these things. I mean, a panel programs was made. Encourage banker. We did some with banker, different people from different areas. There was a specific program that we brought, I think, OJ Jaro and others from policy backgrounds. I mean, we brought people from operational backgrounds, from police, army, and different entities, even from the former NSS. We discussed these issues. It's not that people didn't know what to do. Now, as I pointed, one of the problems with Mas, and he would be conflicted because he cannot take certain decisions. These are one of the things I raised. People to have the courage to take the difficult decisions. He will not have, can do that because he stayed long within the system. Long. He's part of the problem. You don't expect him to solve it. But you have a metric system that would have dealt with this thing. Within 3 months, the risk would have been dealt with. The risk would have been dealt with because already you have encampment. That's the first thing. You have encampment. Everybody was encamped. Now you have a security guarantee. Economic was there. Now you have a disarmament. All these heavy weapons and everything we are taken away. Now, before you restructure, that's we put a metric system and decide these things. People that committed human rights abuses, people that had appointments that they don't, regimentation. You see, if you deal with corruption, if you deal with these things, these are the things, if you cannot go in, you put a questionnaire, and when they put that questionnaire, and one of their questionnaire was what tribe they were. I said, no, you don't do that. No intelligence service would tell you to do that. What tribe they were. No. You see, because our specs are on tribe. The loyalty is not about tribe. The loyalty is about an interest. Jolas were a victim of Yaya Jammeh. And if we look at it per population, in fact, there were more victims from the Jolas than any other tribe. If we look at per population, what's the population of Jolas and how many Jolas became victims? The entire region was victimized for land issues and other things. Just a minute, let me just check. Hello? Yeah, maa ngi busy nañ wax later. No, maa ngi busy nañ wax later. Okay. Sorry about that. I was not rude. I have to do that to stop it. Why would you want to know someone's tribe? I'm thinking that determines his loyalty. No, if you do evaluations in many ways. But these are the things, because we thought some people would be loyal to us because of the tribe. No. Different tribes did different things for Yaya Jammeh. It was not based on tribe. It was based on individual moral bankruptcy. They betrayed themselves, betrayed their families. that they represent directly, because some of them are thinking that not only to save their life, it's what they can get to take to their family. They betray that family. But if you have a defected mind, that's why you evaluate things based on tribe. Because you are defected on tribe yourself. You don't know how to look for competencies. You don't know how to do an assessment properly. And once you cannot insulate those biases, you think your assessment would be right. This is the thing that happened to Sadauda. Because of all these people have interests, and they mask their interests according to tribe. But let's look at this. Finally, who were the biggest two rivals? It was Shehu Sabali and Bibi Dabo. And other people line up behind them. Because that's the power dynamics. You have to understand the power dynamics. And the power dynamics might likely even come within. It was not from the NGP. It was not from any other entity in the country. It was from within the PPP. It was within the PPP. But power dynamics were within the PPP. That's why the power dynamics right now is within Barrow. But Barrow did not have power himself. Because Barrow is captured. Now the power dynamics are loose. That's why there's no control in the country. That's why we face this danger. That's where the instability is. It's lack of governance, effective governance. Even a brutal dictatorship is effective in controlling. That's what Yahya Jammeh did. It was not a good governance, but it was effective in controlling. But this is an ineffective governance. It's a bad governance. It's not in control of anything, not corruption, not behaviors of people, no anything. It's a matter of running out of luck, and it will happen. And we'll regret it. A 1 hour of destabilization in the country, Gambia will regret it. I cannot go into details of what would happen or how it happened. But I'll tell you, if anybody has a security mind, would understand the components, the series of taking time within the country. 1 hour. We lose governance for 1 hour. We lost it, but it's only that it's not acted on yet. 1 hour we regret it. And it's not going to last for an hour. If we're lucky, it will last for 24 hours before it starts to recede and other things. And it might last for a week. All depends whether we even have a contingency plan. Because of the contingency plan we're thinking of, it's not a contingency plan. Contingency plan we're thinking of, in fact, compounding things more. Bringing more forces, more soldiers. Now you have ECOMIC here. Now you have Senegalese contingent here. Now you have a Nigerian contingent here. Now you have the Gambia Armed Forces defected here. Now you have, people that left the armed forces, and not gain for this thing. Some of them who have done certain things here. You have youths that are hopeless. I don't mean by insult, who have no hope in society or anything, have no ownership of anything in the country, as we've seen what happened in Sanyang and other things. But no, we want to see everything with partisan lenses. Or we want to point it to be a tribal thing. It's a lie. It's an interest. Who are these most prominent people in Barrow's government? The two main things or three main tribes we're talking about. They are prominent in Barrow's government, and they are prominent in the opposition as well. It's about interest. They don't care about their tribes. They care about the money they take to their families and the life they live. They don't care about Gambia. That's the problem. And we should not fall for that. Now, as I said, we failed the security sector reforms due to not doing things first, putting the right people in, and putting a system that would have addressed that. How did we choose the security sector advisor? One who have served the Yaya for everything, from army commander to ambassador forever, to up to the last day. That's the person we choose. Now we expect the person to have a mindset that is democratic, mindset that can change, mindset that can be different from Yaya Jammeh mindset or Yaya Jammeh institution. And the person, for that matter, as an individual, in fact, he's not knowledgeable in that sector. He was a soldier, yes, he wore the uniform, but he was what we call a combat engineer. A combat engineer, in fact. I have to do that in courts. People that know that know. And how did the appointment happen? Again, because of partisanship or political appointment. You see, we talked about these things and people come and vouch for him. Hamnako, Nikubala, Hamnako, Amna Masters, Hamnako, Amna Li. That's how we go. Ana ñun way recommend ñu Hamnako, Nikubala, Amna Masters, Munnako, Hamna Li, Yagana si army bi defon na ni anañ. Now you see the tahaw fofu, the tahaw di wax waxi kaya koya. That's what he's doing. Politics, because if he is eloquent, people think he's smart. The brave decisions since he took over, what have he done to deal with this issue? You see, that's what happened. They will not take decisions, difficult decisions. Unpopular decisions would not be taken. The CDS said, CDS Yankub, I'm reading from the press written on the written by Abdullah John from one of the press in the Gambia. CDS Yankuba Drame, if we allow to be divided, this country will descend into civil war. Now, another person, the Gambia government went and signed an MOU talking about an insurgency. Now, CDS talking about civil war. When I was talking about the taking time and others, people thinking that or we are disgruntled or other things. And I put it on into context. I put it into context and explained. I explained the implications. Let me open that door. I explained the implications. Now the CDS continue. The Chief of Defense Staff, Yankuba Drame, has warned Gambia Armed Forces against entertaining the spectre of division to prevail over servicemen. If we allow it to be divided, this country will descend into civil war. CDS Drame told a group of soldiers, hiding under the shade of a big tree at the block military camp. I don't know, hiding, sheltering probably, sheltering under a big tree. In Fonyi, as I said, the CDS should not be addressing this in that manner. These things should have been cascaded down from the command level, going down, battalion, company level, that way. And it's not something that you just come, because now it's in the press. We have to manage this sort of information. It's in the press now. It's out there. And investors and other people would see in the instability. One, Gambia is signing an MOU on insurgency with Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria. Gambia is talking about divided armed forces still after 4 years of democracy. Economic is still there, Senegalese forces are still there. He continued and said President-elect party and he's continuing, if we allow this funny. Gambia Armed Forces Chief remark came after the time when the tiny West African, this thing, I don't want to, but elections have been sourced to destabilization. But let me get to where I want to read here. As the CDS touring the country military facilities, expectations are high about the army ability to carry out its Republican task. The army. Why do we think that there's a need for the army for elections? You see, this is the defective mindset of Yahya Jammeh. If governance is done effectively, the army is not a contingency planning process. Or the priority of the contingency planning, the army would not be factored in this. But again, this is the problem we have. As the CDS touring the country military facilities, expectations are under. He said under my watch, Tribalism will not be condoned in the army. CDS Drame added, whilst reminding the soldiers about their sacrosanct role to preserve the territorial integrity of the country. Can you imagine this? Under his command, he was the deputy CDS. Now, if he's concerned about tribalism, what can the journalist ask him, what have he done since Yaya left the source to make sure these things are not a concern now? Nothing, absolutely. Nothing, absolutely. You see, they went on, in fact, and crystallized. They crystallized the problem. Go and find out. They took people, a majority of people who were at State House with Yaya, they took them to, Farafenni. No, they took them to Basse, majority, and most of these people, most of them Jolas, and others they perceived to be royals of Yaya Jammeh. That's what they did. They took the people who were in Kanilai, the other State House, and take them to Farafenni. Like Farafenni and Basse, that part of the country is as they hand it over to people they suspect. I'm not saying everybody, I'm not saying the commanders, but the majority, as this is how they did things. Go and find out. That's wrong. That's wrong. The metric system, putting in metrics would have been, things would have been done better. And people's skills and everything would be identified. Not about their things. And you put, if the army was working right, we would not have this problem. Let's put it that he absolutely failed, and he's not helping issues. The CDS is not helping issues, coming out talking about this thing. It's not something that you voice out, it's something you do something about it. He's not doing anything about it. Now, what is the contingency planning? We are not doing it right. If the governance fail, or part of governance, we should have a contingency plan. We fail about that. And we move on to the statement made by Honorable Halifa Saleh. And the same statement, let's say, is something that we hear on social media very frequent. And as I said, these are the two we identified the failure of the security sector reform, and now the issue about social polarization. But we never talk about the governance. We never talk about the effect of that bad governance, because lack of job creation, the destituteness of Gambians, especially youths and others, the sufferings in our public failure of our public health delivery and so on. What that have to do with our insecurity? We didn't talk about that. But Honorable Halifa Saleh made a statement. I think it was Forum being invited, and this statement rightly so. But again, this is what I'm saying. We should be trying to avoid something. We should be moving away from just identifying problems, not the solutions. And we should hold institutions accountable on this. By Parliament bringing the people and asking those questions. The select committees asking them the question and want to see the proof, not just for those people to make presentation and go home. Tangible proof, we have done this. What milestones have you? Or we have a security sector reform. What are the tangible proof that something have been delivered? What milestones? These are the things. But no, we let them come in with their uniforms or whatever, or when institutions they come from and blah blah, they walk away. And we know that's not true. And solutions is about governance. Our problem is governance. How do we tackle this? That's what we're looking at. But no, we are not doing that. We are looking in, we are only dealing with partisancy, in fact, sorry, not by partisancy about issues. And fanning this thing in a sense to take a tribal angle on each other. Every party have been identified to belong to a tribe. Guys, that's what happened to Liberia. That's what happened to Liberia. That's why every warring faction was a tribe or a coalition of 2 tribes or 3 tribes, depend what a minority they are. We should be very careful. Again, this is the proof of the sense of the insecurity. And who fails? Barrow fails. He has the executive power. But we fail. If Barrow fails, we fail. Because we fail to hold him accountable to make sure everything's right. We continue here. Honorable Halifa Saleh, the Secretary General of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, have issued a strong warning to Gambians that the country cannot afford civil unrest being surrounded by Senegal. Being surrounded by Senegal. That's an emphasis in this case. I think the country cannot just, any country cannot afford an unrest, especially Gambia. The bit about whether surrounded by Senegal or not is another issue. That's another thing to be discussed at, and we'll do that another day. But let's look what the Honorable Saleh stated. This country cannot afford Gambia fighting each other because if we do, we will lose the Gambia to either the Casamance province of Senegal on the south or the part of Senegal in the north. So the Gambia is an epicenter of war or peace for those two sides. If we go to war with ourselves, our neighbors in north south will drag into it and we will lose the Gambia he won. Due respect, that's the opinion of Mr. Saleh. I have a completely different opinion. And I would want Gambians to look at the case of Rwanda. Rwanda was not a big country, was not a heavily populated country. And when it happened, Burundi and other countries were affected. And I mean, let's say every other country around Rwanda was part of that war. Because others used it as were siding with one tribe or other. What you call it, Uganda and others all were backing one side or other. Congo and others, everything was like, it was a kind of a proxy for other people. But it not make Rwanda to lose their sovereignty. But they pay a heavy price. They pay a heavy price. Sovereignty is underpinned by international law. Sovereignty is underpinned by international law. God forbid, if it happens, we can look at a Rwanda situation because of, as I said, I don't want to go into detail. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 24 hours, it will be too much. And if you look at the population, how it affects, and other things, the people, refugees and everything. But others will tell you, it's part of that we don't want to accept. Evolution. But wise people dictate their evolution, manage their evolution, not to go that path. But Gambia, we are not. Just as Rwanda did not. And Rwanda went through the evolution in order to reset their bottom. And Gambia, I'm not begging for this. I'm not saying, but I am warning. If it happens to Gambia, might be what we need. I'm not saying we need it for us to reset our bottoms. Because Senegal cannot just jump on and declare the country theirs. Casamance cannot jump on and declare the country theirs. And the forces in Casamance, again, I'll get to that. They cannot. They cannot. Senegal cannot just do that. It's a sovereignty matter. And sovereignty matter and geopolitical matters as well. You see, there is so much. But what I'm saying here is, what I agree with the Honorable Member of Parliament, is Gambia would really suffer. And but that we don't need. We can manage this thing. It's not too late. We just have to come to our senses and avoid it. And what avoids it is governance. Be proactive. Prevention. We have to take these lenses out to see the common good. Without touching. Without touching. What I'm saying is, loss of sovereignty in many cases, for that to happen, the country that would do it would have to be a part of the Fourth World Order. Russia, England, and big countries. Because what happens is they have a veto power. They can ignore international law and conventions and take over a country. The Crimea in Ukraine and other territories. If you understand the war in Syria, you see the geopolitical this thing. You understand the occupation in Lebanon. Did not make Lebanon lose its sovereignty. Syria occupied Lebanon. Other countries occupied Lebanon. It did not. And other complexities that happened. The southern part of Lebanon, Tripoli, and the place called Tripoli and others, populations up to the end. The refugee population in Lebanon almost equal to the population of Lebanese in Lebanon. Did not make Lebanon lose its sovereignty. When Iraq wanted to, you see, it's all different dynamics. But I think what would we likely lose our sovereignty is through economic. We are likely not through physical force, not through going to war. But that's my opinion. It's through economic. We go on to the extent that our currency would not mean anything. Our economy depends on importing from other countries, especially Senegal, depending everything on Senegal. On doing the mistake of building a bridge between Banjul and Bara. These are the things we should think about. National security will tell you the role and infrastructure play in solidifying your sovereignty. Do you know why Turkey is strategic? Do you know why the Western countries tolerate Turkey? Because of the location. Because of the location. That's why they are members of NATO. That's why if they sneeze, the Western countries have to, because where they sit. Gambia, this is what we have to think about. Our location is a different thing. We just don't see it as a witness. I disagree on that. And another reason why I would disagree on it. You see, the insurgency in Casamance, most people don't understand. It was not big as everybody see in the media. No. Because of part of the Senegalese government were using the insurgency for corruption, to justify resource mobilization, to justify resource allocation, which would not get to where it should go, especially within the military. There's no evidence. Go and look at the Senegalese Casamance insurgency have gone for decades. They have never occupied whole ground and administrative ground as you see in Nigeria. Bono State was completely ungovernable, control. There's no region. And Casamance, we have the southern part of Casamance. We have the other region of Ziguinchor, Bignona. Yes. But what about other regions? Nothing to do. They are not part of a secession plan. Asking for independent secession. No, they are not part of it. And within this, even within the enclave, they've never controlled a municipality. They never control anything. Another study would be, look at the Basque separatist movement. These people have autonomy. Casamance didn't even have an autonomy force. You have to gain autonomy force, in fact, or to able to have a strategy, geopolitical partners that will support you to have a secession, to able to hold ground. They don't have that. The Biafra War is only France that was trying to do that for the Biafrans. But because of the strategic location of Nigeria and France, they could not have achieved that. And the air superiority of Nigeria and the forces under the federal state, They couldn't have achieved. You have to factor the geopolitical position too. You have to have that. Casamas cannot have that. That's why in the time of Jammeh, they have something similar. That's why they even were that more permanent, in able to do certain things, access certain arms, because of the end certificates IIR used to this thing and other things, the moral support and others. If they cannot control a territory because of there's instability in Gambia, you expect thinking that their forces can get in and control this thing, and Senegal will sit down and let them. Senegal don't want them to hold ground in Casamance, their own boundary, but Senegal to let them. No. Why do you think Senegal have a contingent in the Gambia already? And do we not know that Senegal have a contingency plan? Do we know that Senegal have one of the most disciplined forces in the sub-region? Do we not know that Senegal do a periodical review of their assessment of their defense and security policies and strategy? You think they don't factor these things? You think they don't have intelligence in the Gambia, in other places? You think Senegal is not already having a a contingency plan? I am not saying that we rely on Senegalese decision. Just showing you that it's not going to happen that way. But we are going to suffer. Senegal doesn't want it to happen because we are estimate over 300,000 Senegalese citizens in the country, and others, and Gambians, and the fallback. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying that a civil war will not happen, but it's something that can happen. It's getting very likely, highly likely. In fact, depends assessments you do, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. We can stop that happening, but it has to happen by being proactive, taking these lenses of politics or seeing interest groups as a tribal problems. No, it's an interest problem, and we have to be honest to each other. And this is to tell you that if we are now here after 4 years of Barrow, with all the support from the international community, with economic presence and everything, he failed, and now we are facing a threat to the extent of the CDS admitting, the member of parliament, senior member of parliament admitting, and cause for cause out, for the government themselves going for an MOU about insurgencies. We have a problem. That's how insecure we are. But as I said, that's where this argument is. But the Honorable Halifa Sallah have raised valid points. But now we should ask ourselves, what do we do? Bringing in soldiers is not the solution. We have to hold accountable and other things, and let's move on. Let's bring it to issues. Just shows you issues around the issue about migration and xenophobia. You see, I am very passionate about this point because we are falling for something. That's why I say we are falling for something. Why is migration or immigration an issue right now? Not 3 years ago, not 4 years ago. We have to ask ourselves that. Why do we want to turn people, me, part of that, who are advocating to be proactive, to be vigilant? I'm not saying to take law into your hands, to be vigilant in order to avoid what we all know is a fact, that the government is trying to get foreigners to register to vote. Why do people think that I would be xenophobic? Or other people are xenophobic? The people that I say think like me, act like me. I'm not saying somebody else who take laws into their own hand. Xenophobic. I'll give you a reason why I stick my stand. As I said, I try to do my quota based on how effective I am. That's why I feel I'm not effective to be within political party structures now. Because of anything I'll do will be seen in that lenses. Even now, people will see in that lens, but that's their defective mind, not me. I've done my bit to claim my independence, to sit on an independent platform, not even to associate with any other platform, just to avoid my neutrality, because I am not doing it for that money or anything else, for any interest group or particular group, but for the common good. My background, my experience, I've did my research. I wrote the document, academic, with proof, years before 2016. I put a historic perspective, how voter registration fraud started in the Gambia. It did not start with Yaya Jammeh, and how it transferred to Yaya Jammeh, and how Yaya Jammeh industrialized it, the operational systems, the assets and everything else identified. I did that investigations to the extent of pinning down exactly everything, how it happened, and where the evidence was stored in the APRC political bill. How would I know that? Because I invest my time, resources, energy, my experience, background, military intelligence here in the West here, been taught, been experienced working, benefiting from that experience, and use it. Nobody would say that there's no evidence of foreigners been used to decide our elections, which is destabilizing our country. That's not about migration. That's not about immigration. That's a different thing. This is about election fraud. Let's talk about the facts. But if we think that UDP are overreacting, yes, we might be. Yes, we might be right in certain quarters because we might see certain things in that way. But the UDP has the right to, and as every other political party, not only a right, a duty to ensure the integrity of our democracy. And every citizen has a right and a duty to ensure the integrity of our political party. It depends how you do it. I do it my way. But UDP, if they believe that they are to win, that's the mindset they have. This evidence you can see. Now, that's why they have a stake. They take a stake. I take a stake, not that I have a party that will win. I have a stake for our democracy to win. Whoever comes out from our democracy and win that election fairly and squarely, we go through it. Because I know that if it's not done fairly and squarely, it will affect our national security. My position is about national security. Get a good. If other political parties decided to throw in the towel, or political party supporters throw in the towel, thinking that I cannot win, now let's leave it to them. Barrow and this thing. You don't participate in elections just to win. You participate in elections for the democracy to mature, to work on. You go and advocate for the right things, whether it benefits you now or not, but it's benefit the greater good. And if any political actor, a strategist, a party think that they and throw the towel now, that's their weakness. Because I can tell you, elections are not decided until we go to the polls. And knowing politics is not a given to any political party right now. Yes, there are advantages for political parties, but there are disadvantages for political parties. There are advantages for other people if they can find a strategy. If they can find a strategy and get to the elections and the resources and what it takes. But regardless of whether I win the elections or not, regardless of who wins the elections, the democracy we should protect. Now, that's this position of this thing. For people to be called xenophobic, and now I have seen people writing articles on immigration, taking the same cue from Barrow, same cue from NPP, Now, if you are now sharing the same thinking with NPP and Barrow, now you should be worried. You should be worried. Because it's baseless. It's only for one thing. And I will start from where? Why now? Why Barrow worry about migrants right now? Why people worry about immigration of migrants right now? I'll come to that. What are they saying? That because of other countries, some of us are voting. We vote based on the laws of that country. And what we're talking about Gambia is people to vote based on the laws of that country. The constitution, the election act, and that's what we say. Not whether the person have a background from wherever it is. We are not against anybody naturalizing as a Gambian. We welcome that. If someone feel and happy to and love that country that much, to be part of it, we welcome you. That we are diverse people. That's not the argument. I'll tell you. I'll bring you where the argument is. They're bringing conflicting reasoning, saying that UK, America, Gambians vote. But these people saying this, I've not seen them. In fact, stand up to say that why the diaspora is not voting. No, you don't want to fight for the diaspora to vote, but you want to fight for people who are not eligible to vote. Because I don't know what you're talking about. Why didn't we allow foreigners to vote? I don't see any country that allow foreigners to vote into the elections. In the United Kingdom, I'll give you an example. EU nationals were not allowed to vote. EU nationals were allowed to vote on local government elections because they pay tax to local government. But they were not allowed to vote for the parliament because there's an EU parliament. That's the law. That's the law. If I have a permanent residence, I did not have a British passport. If I said that let's say someone have a permanent residence, not a British passport. If they have a child in this country, that child is not a British. It's not a citizen of Britain. It's a citizen of the country the father holding passport from. If the child wants to be a citizen, the child has to be of age and meet the criteria to apply to be a citizen, or the father has to naturalize and the family have to naturalize. They have to naturalize to be, to the extent they have to swear allegiance to the Queen. That's how they've taken it far now. They change their laws. Gambia have a similar system. Whoever wants to be a citizen, you have to go through what the constitution prescribes, and you become a citizen. If you empathetic to migrants that much, help them, give them information, give them the resources that they need to be citizens for themselves. But not to take migrants. It's not to their interest. In fact, it's destabilizing the harmony that they have in society, bringing them into conflict with the host community. To vote, to take part in an elections, to vote for an individual who is not even serving their interests. And I'll come to that. This is the argument. There's no argument. You cannot put that argument here. You are not advocating for legal people to be. Nobody said a legal person should not register to vote. And we have evidence. We know it. It happened from Jawara's time. Yahya Jammeh industrialized it. And as I said, my report was vindicated. Yahya Jammeh came out and asked for 300,000 votes in the petition. Go and ask the people that seen the document before elections. Shidisani and others, many people have seen it, and 300,000 written in my research. Because that information, people, the way I responsible, told us, Yahya Jammeh came out and admit in a petition going to the Supreme Court to overturn the election because he cannot find the 300,000 votes because we got rid of them. That's where I come in again. Now you want to think that for us, what you would perceive taking the laws into our hands, taking the voter cards away from Yahya Jammeh was a crime? No, it's self-defense. If I know that someone is about this thing, the only way at that time Only way that time was to do that. Because you cannot report it. You cannot go to anywhere else. Now we have a different dispensation. Now we're doing things differently. That's why I appeal people who are proactive and vigilant. Let them be proactive, vigilant within laws of the Gambia. But that those should give other people an excuse to paint everybody to be xenophobic because of their doing their duty. I stand against that. I don't have time to go and reply to social media posts. I have my platform and I can be invited on any platform for this debate. If you believe, I am not. And the reason why. Why did we have, what does it mean to empower a migrant? Did we hear any of these people before today talk about the residence permit paid by migrants? Do you know that different migrants in the country pay different residence permit? If you advocate for these people, for their welfare, to be a citizen is a choice for them. I could have lived in this country, and I swear to God, if at the time I was not technically stateless, I didn't have any document, a valid passport or anything, I would not have changed my citizenship to be British. I was holding to my Gambian passport and my indefinite leave to remain. But I could not even, my passport was not even more valid. I cannot renew my passport. I need a passport to travel. I cannot access a British passport. I have to naturalize to access a British passport. I did that. It's my choice. I was given the opportunity to this thing. And Gambians, foreigners in the Gambia are given the opportunity to take it on. Yes, different people would take it, others will not. For many reasons. One, people highly educated or educated migrants, Nigerians, Ghanaians, are aware and have resources to understand that they will be better off to regularize themselves. Then they will not have to pay the permit. It's cheaper. They will not have to pay the permit. And if they're expats, they don't have to pay expatriate these things. The passport or Gambian citizenship is just on document. They are Nigerians. Their mindset and everything. I don't mean that they don't care about it. No, they will care about it. I care about the United Kingdom. I care about my community because I benefit from this community. It's where the peace and tranquility of here is to my advantage. And these migrants, so they see the country that is the same way. But the Nigerians or West African migrants who are educated or who have, resources would understand this. Now, I need to regularize myself. It's easy. I met all this thing. I am 10 years in the country. I don't know how many years they need to be. I am law abiding. I apply for it. I pay 10,000, 5,000, I don't know. Now, invest in this. I'll have my Gambian citizenship. My children will be Gambians. Not only that. Now, they can access resources without being penalized. They can go to hospitals and pay Gambian fees, not foreign fees. If they are expatriates, they don't have to pay expatriate fee tax. They have to pay normal tax. You see, that's what they do. In the diaspora here too, people that have opportunity would do it. We do it because we want something from these countries. We are still Gambians. You can't be British or anything. But it's still Gambian. But within those communities, there are people that cannot afford. They cannot afford even to naturalize because they cannot put 10,000 together. But they are surviving, coexisting, and they're managing. Not that they don't want to be, but if they have the means, go and empower them to be. Support them. Some people might not even know how to do it. That's why in communities, people open advisory bureaus to empower them. Tell them their rights. Facilitate that. I have no problem with that. I will applaud that. Some of these communities, you'll be surprised. You see the connectivity. Some people, coming from a migrant background. Now, people sit Every minute they call their original host, from their this thing. They are so this thing, they don't feel the need anymore. They travel. Now it's easy to travel. You go 24 hours, get to your position, come back. You don't need to travel. You talk to them, you see them, you visualize, you do this. I mean, they are less even, they travel frequently. Now, they are not, how to call it? Their ties in that society even is less. Because they can just jump in travel. Some of them, their families now, they even repatriate them to be educated in those countries. But not to be educated in the Gambia. Not to be educated in the Gambia. You see? These are things we should understand. Just a minute, someone at the door. These are the things we should understand. Now, migrants have defended this. If they want to facilitate that. But why now? Talking about they should register. These people talking about migrant registering, did they help them? Did they talk about let's abolish them asking permits? Residence permit, paying residence permit. Why didn't we advocate for that if we care about the migrants? If this is about caring about migrants. Look, migration is governed under a policy. And every country is a sovereign country. You do it according to your sovereign interests. You can have a pan-African mindset and everything. But we have to be very careful. We don't hear Senegalese advocating for Guineans to be naturalized. We don't hear Senegalese advocating for Gambians to be naturalized in Senegal. We don't hear Guineans advocating for Guineans to be naturalized in Guinea. We don't hear Guineans advocating. Right now, Guinea is closing their border to Senegal, closing their border to Freetown, Sierra Leone, closing their border for Guinea-Bissau and so on. And you call up, you think you live with reality of Pan-Africanism? Until we achieve that, we have to look after our interests as well. We are a sovereign nation. It should be based on policy. A sound policy. That's why the constitution was discussed. How someone becomes a citizen and others. This is about politics. And some of these people advocating for this are not NPP. But they're taking the same position with NPP. Because they are giving up. They are throwing the towel. They are not doing justice to their political party. Let them go out there and empower their political party. There are strategies. Let them consult people. Let them bring people into their political parties. To bring out the strategies to win an election. Election is won on strategy, won on resources. There is an undecided vote. No party have a monopoly on people. And it's not a statement. Go and prove it. It's about politics. Our Gambia is a sovereign nation. We should go by our laws. We have a constitution. Constitution have prescribed how someone becomes a citizen. Again, people saying that they have never seen something like this. You have a luxury. You are privileged not to be a victim. I am a victim of that. My family have been a victim of this. That's why I said, how can I be xenophobic talking about this? But I was brought up to be nationalist, to be proud of who I am, but not to look at someone indifferent, and to respect humanity. To judge people by the core values. To not be judgmental, to support even the weak. This is our values, I'm being told. Not to look things in perspective of certain lenses, interests. To the extent of don't care about the destabilization of your country, your sovereignty being undermined, your democracy being undermined. No. If Adama Barrow wins fair and quiet, that's me. If I am against that, I try and ensure he doesn't win. That's how it should be. Let's look at the facts here. People say they've never seen this kind of issues. Yes. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Because we said it here. As I said, everything was based on facts. When I came out, started to point to what the strategy is. Because I know the operational systems. I was ready for Adama Barrow. I know that Adama Barrow would need this to win elections. And I said no. I started talking about it. And other people picking up. And other people talk about it. Other people talk about it. Yes, I share my document to many people to benefit them, to benefit us, to understand the operational systems, and to avoid election fraud, especially registering foreigners. And the things I identify, everything have come out to be true. This is why, because now overwhelmed, Adama Barrow, we are against it. We go after him. And anybody who does it, we go after you. If you have a problem with that, that's you are a criminal like Adama Barrow. That's the problem. You cannot call me a xenophobe. I am made of 2 migrants, proud of it, but who are more nationalistic than anybody else. They contributed in the country and into society. Chiefs were raised in our household, chiefs. Chiefs. My elderly siblings share the same bed with people who turned out to be chiefs in the country. Contributed. My father served before independence. Served in the Second World War in the Gambia. He never went to Burma. Because he was a small guy. He could not carry. And technically, knowing now, but my father didn't know. He was a strategic intelligence officer. Probably he didn't know then what that means. But the Brits must have used him as a strategic intelligence officer. Because the role he served in Bakau. He served within the command. He was around. When the archives were transported from UK, when London was bombed, the archives were transported from Kew Gardens, taken to Bakau Botanic Gardens. The history of Botanic Gardens. My father was part of those Gambians, being used by the Brits to deal with the archives and other things, to inform them about the mindset. He served as a businessman. He went into communities that he took to be his. He was in Fonyi. Go and ask people from Bondali. He speaks Jola better than Jolas. He speaks Mandinkas better than Mandinkas. He contributed. And brought us the way we are, to see our country. Not to see party, no, or to see a tribe. That's why people would even think that, oh, Poli is nonsense. Because Hamnane, that's not the problem. The problem is somewhere else, and I'm going to point it to you. I'm going to point it to you based on history and facts. We have never seen, that's why we see this, because Adama Barrow is doing everything, and we had them. These people are desperate. Why did the local government minister call me out? He didn't call me because all the accusations I said about corruption and land dealing, I made more accusations. I only accused him once about election fraud, and it was a fact, and that's why he was irritated, because we boycott everything they want to do. Now, any party can benefit from this. Gambia benefit from it. Our democracy will be better. That's why we fought that. That's why I choose that and do that, to be impactful. Now, What is the fact about this? I hear people saying that, hey, Gambia elections musuta make a problem, then you know them is a lie. You don't know politics, you don't know Gambia politics, you don't know Gambia political history. Go and ask the people that were present. I wasn't present in some of these things, but I have the ear to hear from credible, and I have read. Go and read Dr. Jegan Senghor, Gambian politics from 1958 to 1994. Go and read that. You will know Gambian history. But I'll give you things I was present even, and show you why it happened. And it's not right, but this is the facts and what lead it to happen. And most cases is the government, the incumbent that creates the problem, not the opposition. I give you an example. Let me just start with the xenophobic. The issue surrounding why are Gambians not one? Those people talking about let them vote, why are they not saying that let them not pay residence permit? Why are they paying residence permit? This is what would benefit them more. They will have more money for themselves to take care of themselves. Probably then they will have money to register. Those people advocating for them to register to vote. Who is enabling the registration for them to vote? It's not PDIS. It's not UDP. It's not DDC. It's not CA. Who is it? It's Adama Barrow. Now you want to support Adama Barrow on this. Who is mobilizing them? It's Adama Barrow. It's Adama Barrow. Now, one, why are you not advocating for these people not to pay residence permit? One. Two, why are you not advocating for these people not to pay something more expensive, this thing at our medical centers? That's more discriminatory. Imagine someone being ill because of he is a foreigner, but he is contributing taxes in that country. But he has to go to the hospital to pay more than another Gambian who is paying the same tax or not even paying tax. Because all those immigrants in the country are contributing into tax and these things. Because if they sit on their hands, nobody feeds them. That's what immigrants are. They have to work hard. Are you empowering them? Is any group, this government come and scrap that? Do you know what Yaya Jammeh did? Yaya Jammeh at one time, to entice the Senegalese, I think Senegalese are exempted or pay less. Do you know Guineans pay more? Guineans pay more. And some, I think Sierra Leone, you see, he have different things because some of the presidents came and visit him. And he give them, they have different, this thing. Do we advocate against that? That even our immigrants population, our families have been, do we campaign against that? No. Now, hospitals. No. If we want to say it, let's say it. This is about elections. Now, if from this on we are allowing this to be tribal as well, that's what we choose to do. But if we are quiet, Ben Suarez will not be. Because I will not be pigeonholed. That's your opinion. I know myself better than you. And people that know me better than you. I care what that person think. Yes, I will explain because of I have a platform. But if you choose to be indifferent, be indifferent. That's what democracy is. It doesn't affect me. Now let's come to it. Let me tell you some of the things that happened in the Jawala days. So people saying that we never seen this. I'm not even talking about the item. I'll come to the item. My first cousin, Mustafa Jallo, whose father was a veteran, the Second World War, went to Burma. His father, my uncle, went to Burma. Mustafa and everybody else was born in the Gambia. And In fact, we were all born in the same street, Bakau. The same street center, a compound slightly opposite. And they moved from Bakau Center to Bakau Newtown. Mustafa was the eldest, went to high school, went to sixth form, and came out in that year. This was early 80s. He was in the same class with God forget these other guys, but most of his classmates are very successful now. Mustafa came out top of the class in science, top of the class, Gambia High School, sixth form. Mustafa was paler than me, white. Mustafa used to have an afro, with a curly hair afro. He doesn't even look fuller. He looks more of kind of, you think he was a mixed race, or he was a mulatto, or he was a Lebanese. But everybody knows he's Mustafa Jallow. Everybody knows fuller. He speaks Wolof. He was born in the Gambia, Mustafa won a scholarship to do marine navigation. I think he was meant to go to Ghana, from Ghana, continue to proceed to prepare in Ghana naval listing, and go to Singapore. Up to the last minute, they turned around and said Mustafa was a foreigner because his father was not born in the Gambia. Do you know why they did that? They wanted to pass the scholarships to someone else. The person who was taking the decision took the decision and cannot justify, because it's the disparity of results was so huge. You see, if the results were like that, Mustafa would not have stand chance. Mustafa only stood chance because he's from an underprivileged family, but did that well. He was top of the class in science. He deserved the scholarship. Now they want to deny him the scholarship. They send him home. That he's not going to have a passport. He's not going to Ghana to study because he was not a citizen. You see, that's why I said, if people, that's my family. I know what it is. But you think I will go and blame that person? I blame the system. I blame the system. At that time, the vice president was a fuller. And you have 4 other fullers in cabinet. You have MC Jallow, you have MC Cham, you have Andrews Kamara, and someone else. Oje Jallow. You have 4 of them. When he was denied. You see, if we want to do something, we have to make sure we have the system right. The Constitution of the Gambia, First Republic, this person's father served the crown that was governing. This person's father was in the country. This person was born before the country was born, because of, based on what, when the country became republic. He was born before republic. He was born before the Constitution of the Gambia. How can that person not be in the Gambia? In the Gambia. Now, what do we do? That's why if we want to avoid problems, we make sure we do things right. If we create vacuums, this is what happened. And then, just to give you an example, do you know how many times my own brothers from Modern Father have been arrested? And do you know how they used to do that? Profiling. They meet you in the streets. You have the light skin, they arrest you, put you, throw you in the behind the counter. Behind the truck, and take you to the police and put you behind the counter to say that you have to pay the permit before you are released. The First Republic, go and ask about that. They used to run, go around in market areas chasing fullers, looking for fullers. That's what profiling is. This is what hard-working people, they say, but they were asking for to pay permit. And most of the time, the permit was not paid because these people keep on bribing police officers, immigration officers. Then the police even used to do this. We had it before. Let's come to politics. Politics, violence, intimidation, and everything else. Fourth Republic. Elections fraud, as I said, started from Jawara's time. Because then you have to be in parliament to win elections. I'll give you examples. Momodu Kadi Cham, MC Cham is alive. And people who are alive, who knows about this thing, go and ask what happened in Tumanna. What used to happen in Tumanna every election cycle. I'm talking about history. It might not be written, but we are alive and we know it. We are alive and we know it. The only time they won, MC Cham wins elections is because of intimidation, taking talks from Banjul, from the urban areas, taking them to Tumanna, to ambush opponents, the NCP. People say, yeah, we used to have political harmony. This happened. But you know why it's a problem now? The state of insecurity. Any fault line might mean something else. That's why we should avoid it right now. Prevention better than cure. We cannot tolerate this. That's one example. And do you know, Member Tambedu won the elections based on when Member Tambedu was vigilant. That's how MC Cham lost the parliamentary seat. Go and research that. I'm talking about facts here. Not pointed out. Because of the young people need to know. Because it's not in our history. It's not written down. I'll give you another example. Djibouti, Serakunda. I cannot repeat things that they used to sing for Djibouti. I cannot repeat things they used to sing for A.N.J. I cannot repeat that. I cannot. I remember all those songs. And remember, Djibouti was UP-NCP, the first coalition, Gambia. That's another political history, let me tell you. UP-NCP, Djibouti. Djibouti used to win every election. Until the time he lost was 1982, when he was incarcerated in Maltu, wrongly accused. After election, he was released. He won the next election. You tell me there's no intimidation? I'm not saying it's right, just tell you the history. Let's not just try to make these things as some of us are the ones, no. It's normally the incumbent that create the situation, the governance failures. They do the right thing would not happen. If Adam Barrow did not go out there looking for foreigners to vote for him, people would not be vigilant. I'm not saying anybody to take the laws into their hand. I know people would still run with all this caveat I'm doing. But that says a lot about them. Again, that's Djibouti. Badou Ilyasa, Sheriff Mustafa Diba. You see, I can go and go on. But the Hanoi even is Bakau. You know, Bakau used to be PPP. Bakau used to be PPP. Until we have Mr. Njai, what's his name again? I know someone from Bakau. Njai, from Imam. You see, he was a son of Imam Njai. That he was a PPP candidate. When we have our Bunding, Kamara, Bunding, from Uppsala University, elections before 1981, 1982 elections. Elections before 1982 elections, 5 years before, do the maths. Bunding came from Uppsala. Kenja, thank you. Kenja. I'm emotional talking about Bunding. I'm emotional talking about Bunding. As a child. You see, you would realize I was young because I was brought up in politics. Bunding, I can still see Bunding, which is Afro, from Uppsala. Every Gambakau, Bunding decided to go into politics. ANJ, thank you. Bunding decided to be a candidate for NCP. You know Surwa Jaite, Dr. Surwa Jaite and others. And they have a group. Bunding was just popular. Not only popular, because that, imagine that in those days, coming from university, going to politics. He won the elections. The youths, the women, everything else, he unified Bakau. Unfortunately, he passed away. He had an accident at Old Cape Road. And I tell you, anytime drive, that's how young I was. But look, I was connected to these people. Bunding was celebrated. And the death of Bunding, the entire Bakau sat down there, everybody turned out. It was like a parliament. It was a national mourning because of the quality of candidate he was, the person he was, a young person into politics. What a promising leader he would have been. He died. Then we have our Dembo by force. That's how Dembo came into politics. Dembo was never political. That's why when we tell you what capacity people have, we know. But why do I bring this thing? Just to show the dynamics. The minute Bakau decided to be opposition, the relationship Bakau have with the government changed. It changed. And who created the incumbent? Bunding was even tried to cross-cup it. He refuses. And Bakau represented that. But another thing is, interesting. We went to a level, we have another charismatic Bakau citizen called Sam Silla. Sam Silla was the 1987 elections, I think. I don't take the years from me. This was elections before 1994. Sam Silla became a maverick. People that know his background will know why he was a maverick. Sam Silla was charismatic. Sam Silla stood on the platform of the PPP and make himself a Bakau candidate. That's the strategy. Sam Silla won the elections. Do you know what happened? That's the only time Dembo by force lost the election. Do you know what happened? PPP itself supported Dembo by force for Sam Silla to lose the elections. And do you know how that happened? Registering illegal immigrants. 1. 2, the day of elections. You know, Bakau Sancheba, for people that to understand, you know, Bakau Sancheba votes and Newtown votes at Bakau school. We didn't have an independent electoral commission then. We had the local government. What PPP did was, O.J. Jallow and others, yes, he was so much into it, and others. They come in the evening, they were going campaigning against their own candidate because he was a maverick. He was a maverick. In that Bakau polling station, they deliberate, knowing that the majority of the votes would be coming for Sam Silla in Bakau Sancheba. That was his biggest strength. The Fajara and everywhere was that there. Now the thing where Dembo is, that was open. They opened it on time, they let it flow, and it closed late. In the Bakau Sancheba one, they deliberately did not open on time, and they keep on playing tactics, delaying tactics. Most people did not vote, taking long breaks, and when it was time to close, they closed. And so many people were standing to vote. They never voted. And if somebody was already there, they should have been allowed to vote before time. No, they didn't vote. That's how Sam Silla lost by a small margin. Sam Silla, I think, take Sam George to be his lawyer and petition the elections. That was the election petition. Part of the evidence, people who were on the electoral register and decided that they took their voter cards and gave it to Sam Silla to say that I was going to vote for you. The amount of those people disallowed to vote due to the strategy made Sam Silla to lose that election and Dembo to win. And that was last election for Dembo Bojang in Bakau. The political dynamics. We have these problems before. But why do I bring this? To show you that when these problems happen, it's because of the governance, the state. And opposition cannot make that. And opposition cannot have the audacity if the state is effective doing the right thing. But in this case, the state was the problem. And in the PPP time, the areas, I'm not saying everywhere in the PPP time, the areas that have problem where the marginal seats that the MPs wanted to make sure they win, if not, they will not be ministers. The only justice minister would be going in to be a minister without winning an election. And I think the finance, no, yeah, I think it was only him. I think the finance minister, because Sirif Sisi, I don't know whether Sirif Sisi was an MP. But the justice minister definitely was the only person that goes into parliament, cabinet without being a member of parliament. Now the MC charms, the other people have to, the marginal seats, they have to use instruments to do this. This is an history of us. Now this is why it's happening. Now, if we look at the time of dictatorship, who said that he was not challenged? How many people have been killed? How many people have been beaten? How many people have been ambushed at the Denton Bridge, in Basse, everywhere else? How many campaigns during the campaign period? Who said they've not been challenged? Who said that people were not vigilant? And throughout every election cycle, people that believe in themselves and think that they have something to lose stood up and fought for that, and they were victims. Nobody should tell the narrative that, no, now we're having this, because, no. The problem lies with the administration. The problem lies with the government who is trying to undermine the election. Let's say it as it is. Let's say it as it is. The dictatorship. And the evidence here again, it was that vigilantism that brought in Adama Barrow. If Gambians did not think about it, strategize about it, resource mobilize on it, I mean, and other Gambians on the ground stood and risked their life to take those 300 voter cards, Yaya Jammeh would have been there today. We would not have had this conversation. We would have a different conversation. Now, these are the facts. Let's put it on facts. Let's challenge on facts. What are we not talking about? We are not talking about the facts on holding government accountable on things that they didn't deliberate. Why are we not saying that? It's not about migration. Migration is governed by a policy, by laws. If we want that to change, let's go and change the laws and policy. We had a consultation on these things. Let's do that. Let's go and vote for people that would do what we want. But we cannot change the game rules in midst of games to say that, yeah, because of, I don't hear Senegalese saying that, let us vote. Senegalese are not saying that. Barrow is saying that. I have not heard Senegal saying that Gambia are not letting our citizens vote in their country. Because I have never advocated here Senegalese opposition advocating or Senegalese people advocating for Gambians to vote in our elections. They hold their election in our country. But we don't vote. We never hear the Guineans doing the same thing and we vote in their election. They hold their election in our country. We never hear them saying that we are not empowering Gambians to vote or Gambians in their country. Hey, nañ bayante naxante bi waxante diga. And bipartisan in the tribe into it. We make it what that is. nañ leen wax Adama Barrow dëgga waruta toog waruta run for elections lii moo taxoon mu ne bu mu run for elections because of dafa yaxa maaj bi now accountability lañ wax foofu ndaw déggee ne ku waruta vote ñu ne dañ ko bàyyi mu register bu ko justify Gambia fu ma tegalee di where I'm going to end this is lu Halifa Sallah wax dëgg la there's a threat lu CDS bi wax dëgg la there's a threat Gambia government lu ñoo munu di ut MOU there's a threat but we can avoid this threat beneen bés dinañ waxtaan loolu ñu ko waxtaan nañ ko waxtaan dama soona te waxtaan bi sori na but lu ma wax yëpp ne is accountability is about Barrow stop lu moo def and ñu ne neen ñu wax suñu diggante xam ne politique la nga xam ne politique la nañ leen def politique bi bon buñ leen nangu njuuj njaaj weda kuy win na win démocratie bi lañ war a dëgëral buñ xool nii ki naka nañ leen gëm suñ parti yi nañ leen gëm suñ boppa election bi gàttangut election bi can decide ko circumstances can present themselves lu bari moo dee indi election bu change 6 weeks to election nomination tey kenn mënu fee wax kan mooy nekk candidate ñu bëgg a nekk candidate xam nañ ne am na ñu xamut sax because of ñu ngi ñëw rek out but lan moo ko proof yàlla ñu mu wax ne ñoo ko fekkee ñooy nekk candidate ñooy apply pour dem IEC approve ko based on loi then ñu am candidate waaye nag lu bari na xew diggante boobu why can't you exploit that and make sure nga live why can't you dugga foofu déedéet these are the things ñu war a wax ñu def ko but the social hardship nekkuñ di ko wax and that's a ticking time bomb youth si gis nañ di evidence sanyang but ñu ngi waxaat boobu ne xénophobique déedéet environment ñu ngi yëpp ñu ko gis suñ ko wax ñàkk liggéey bi di youth violence and all these things la nga foog ne moo ko def bad governance failed governance waroon nañ ñoo mën a solve those problems by now bad governance la failure of security sector bad governance la duñ taxaw ne waaw óoluwuñ armed forces bi because of waaye yaayaay ñoo fa nekk te suñ waxee waaye yaayaay xam nga lu ñoo wax suñ ko waxee waxut ko joolaay la ñoo wax te du dëgga yes am na joolaa yu si nekk waaye am na pël yu si nekk am na soose yu si nekk am na njaago yu si nekk am na balanta yu si nekk Gambien nañ bon suñ problème bi mënoon ñu ko génnee not based on tribe based on competent metrics management la competence la ku fail Adama Barrow moo fail moo am executive power mooy appoint mooy daha nañ leen waxante dëgga moom lañ jël suñ ressources bi yëpp jox ko moom lañ jox sovereignty bi dénka ko mu nekk sovereign leader bi ñun ñu nekk sovereign ñu ko waxul accountable jërëjëf and have a good day thank you